Hello and welcome. The health and economic after effects of COVID-19 have quickly spiraled into a certain set of compounding crises for the human civilization. Now, the world is already facing multiple risks and challenges. These challenges feel wholly new and some eerily familiar. We've seen a return of older risks like inflation, trade wars, capital outflows, social unrest, and the specter of nuclear warfare. But all these are now getting amplified by comparatively new developments in global risks. According to the World Economic Forum's Global Risks Report 2023, the decline in human development after decades of progress, rapid and unconstrained development of technologies, and the growing pressure of climate change are shaping a unique, uncertain, and a turbulent future. Today we'll be talking about the 5 biggest challenges and global crises that the human civilization is likely to face. Now, these challenges and risks require our immediate attention. First up is the cost of living crisis. Now, the cost of living crisis is one of the most severe global risks that are peaking in the short term in the next 2 years. Even before the COVID-19 pandemic, the cost of basic necessities like food and housing were rising. Now, the economic after effects of the pandemic and Russia-Ukraine clashes have ushered in skyrocketing inflation. Most of the nations are walking a tightrope between managing inflation without triggering a deep or prolonged recession and protecting citizens from a cost of living crisis along with high debt loads. Economic policy makers and central banks worldwide are likely to face stubborn inflationary pressures over the next 2 years. The knock-on effects will be felt by the most vulnerable parts of society and already fragile states, contributing to rising poverty, hunger, violent protests, and political instability. The increasing cost of living has also increased the rapid GeoEconomic confrontation across the globe. Now, GeoEconomic confrontation is the third most severe crisis that the human civilization is likely to face in the upcoming 2 years. Geopolitical fragmentation will drive geoeconomic warfare and heighten the risk of multi-domain conflicts. Now, the global competition for natural resources, technological dominance, and access to strategic markets will be an increasing common form of geoeconomic confrontation. In this new geoeconomic era, we'll see the return of more protectionist and nationalist policies as nations strive to gain self-sufficiency and economic control in a world where resources are scarce. Geographic confrontations are critical to the effective functioning of that particular region. As a result of Russia and Ukraine's confrontation, more than 1,000 companies from consumer brands to law firms left Russia or curtailed their business operations after last year's invasion. The potential for conflict, particularly in the Asia-Pacific region, is a matter of enormous concern. The biggest threat to global security is that of a climate change. And climate change is not merely an environmental problem that the world is facing. The lack of meaningful action and absence of political will to mitigate through the climate changes is one of the biggest failures that has been recorded in the human history. Failure to mitigate climate change is one of the most severe risks in the foreseeable future. Biodiversity loss and ecosystem collapse due to extreme climate change is viewed as one of the fastest deteriorating global risks over the next decade. The economic, political, and social impacts of climate change are catastrophic. Hence, there is an urgent need for a radical shift, and to meet these challenges, policymakers must come up with an innovative strategy to shift the energy system to one that is more resilient, secure, and most importantly, sustainable. The widening gap between the values and the economy is posing as an existential challenge to both autocratic and democratic systems in the form of societal polarization. Now, societal polarization is not only threatening the societies of the world, but also derailing the federal and economic structures of the nations. Now, polarization is shaking societies across the world, from new democracies to long-established ones. Why are political divisions intensifying globally, and what can policymakers learn from other countries? Let's take a look. Now, recent elections, referendums, and protests worldwide have been marked by polarization on issues like immigration, gender, reproductive rights, ethnicity, and religion. Now, growing public resentment over perceived gaps in human development, social mobility, and direct government action became apparent. And now, economic superpowers, due to conflict of interests, may fracture alliances and limit global collaborations, leading to volatile global dynamics. Social and political polarization may also further reduce the space for collective problem solving to address global risks.
As the technology advances, our use of it is also constantly evolving. Now, so does the cybercrime that is seeing a widespread and is being seen as the biggest challenges in the upcoming future. Now, widespread of cybercrime is posed to be one of the biggest global threats in the upcoming years, and it is predicted to inflict losses worth rupees $10.5 trillion by 2025.
Emerging technologies will provide partial solutions for several emerging crises, from addressing new health threats to scaling food security and climate mitigation. In all economies, these technologies also bring risks of cyber crimes, and cyber crimes have increased drastically every year as attackers improve in efficiency and sophistication. A certain set of examples of such attacks today include the UK's Royal Mail, currently dealing with a cyber incident that has resulted in the organisation asking people to stop sending mail and parcels abroad. Now, critical infrastructure is required to deal with the protection and resilience, since it is a constant target of cyber attacks. It is clear then that the implications of these technological advances are not just complex but multifaceted. As an economic era comes to an end, the next will bring more risks of stagnation, divergence, and distress. And the question that continues to exist is, can we prepare ourselves for these crises?